What's up, core reporters, and welcome back to my channel. The Love is Blind UK Season 1 reunion just aired, and I really want to know what you guys thought about it on a scale from 1 to 10. I personally would rate it, to be honest with you guys, maybe like a 6, perhaps a 7 if I'm feeling rather generous, because although I enjoyed what we did talk about on the show, I still do feel like there were a lot of questions left unanswered. For example, do you guys remember how Benaya said on the show that he was just a house sitter? He didn't really have a place, like a permanent place to live or anything like that. I wanted to get like more info on that to see if it was taken out of context or anything. I felt like Catherine's relationship with Sam could have been pointed out a little bit more, like, because there were rumors that the two of them were seeing each other or dating, but that never actually, like, was brought up on the show. Like, different things like that would have been interesting for them to handle, in my opinion. But I digress. Let's start at the very beginning, shall we? As the people are individually walking out onto the stage, they're met with like a one-liner similar to the Real Housewives sort of a deal. And people were just talking about, like, for example, Demi finding her voice, this type of stuff. And then Maria, true to what it was that I said in my recap of like the finale wedding episode with her and Tom, like, she was just validating my point again. And it's a very sad point, which is that the girl is just desperate to be married. It doesn't matter who she's married to. She was just desperate to be married. Her line literally was just, I wanted to be married. I wanted to be a wife. Okay, but did you want to be married to Tom? Did you want to be a wife to Tom? Because she never explicitly says that. And I find that to be like a very dangerous and sad mentality to have, right? Now, speaking of sad, let's get into Sabrina. Sabrina, first of all, one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing about her in the season of the show, like, was her hair. I loved the bangs. And you guys, if you were watching all of my recaps, you know my second favorite thing about her was her teeth. I loved, in this world of veneers, right, and dentures that the young kids are getting these days, I love that she kept her quirky, like, perfectly imperfect teeth, right? And so thankfully she kept the teeth, but she got rid of the bangs at the reunion. I almost did not recognize her. Like, those were, anyway, she looked pissed coming out there, and she was seated nowhere near Steven. So you could tell immediately that they were no longer together. And it was sad to hear about what actually wound up happening. Now, Olly was another one who we know didn't end up with his fiance at the time. And he talks about that. And he also says that he was really pissed off about all of the stuff that people were saying. People kept on asking, like, it was impossible for him to be attracted to Demi. And he found that to be rather insulting to both himself, which I understand why he was mad, because Demi is a beautiful girl, just like Kat is a beautiful girl. So why did everybody automatically assume that he could not genuinely be into Demi? And to be honest, I feel like he and Demi are in the same league. So it was very weird and kind of microaggressive the way that people treated Demi like some sort of a charity case. And I know she meant well, but even her friend Jasmine was the same, the way she was badgering Olly to try to make him admit that he wasn't attracted to Demi, even though he never said anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, is it her weight? Like, yeah, she's a curvier girl, but she's not like anything you'd like look twice at and go, wow, like she's huge or anything like that. Like, no, she's a perfectly, like, well-balanced girl, in my opinion, right? Is it the fact that she's like biracial? Like, I don't know, because I do know that like biracial and Black men in the UK do have a reputation of preferring like white women, particularly blonde women. So I think maybe that came into play, but I am happy that he chose to clear the air. He did claim that the majority of women he dates look more like Demi than they do like Kat. And I wonder, is that a race thing or is that a weight thing? Like, is he saying that he prefers his girls to be like women of color, or is he saying that he prefers his girl to be like more voluptuous? I'm not sure, but that is what he wound up saying at the end of the day. And he really, truly let it be known that he did not appreciate the public perception of him. Like, he seemed very agitated the entire reunion. Now, Demi then speaks up and says that she was hurt that Kat said that she like couldn't see Olly being with Demi in the real world or being attracted to Demi. And I'm really glad that she called Kat out for this. I do think it was an important issue to address, because at this point they were all in the pods and Kat had only seen Demi, but she had never seen Olly to be making that kind of a judgment. And Demi didn't even understand why she even decided to go ahead and say that, because all she needed to worry about was her own connection with Olly without bringing her up and her looks or anything like that. And you know, I was really proud of her for not backing down on that, because that was a disgusting thing to say. And Demi was like, and you knew it was a nasty thing to say, because you laughed and said, "Ha, my mouth's going to get me into trouble. So don't backtrack now and play cute now. You knew what you did. You knew what you said. So let's hear it. Why would you say that?" And Olly decides to step in and back her up here and say, yeah, like, Kat, why would you say something like that? You don't know me to be making these kinds of allegations. And like, Kat low-key called Demi ugly when she said that. And I'm sorry, let me keep pulling up this picture of Demi, because ugly where? My girl is bad to the bone. You know what I mean? Like, that was a nasty thing for Kat to say. And Kat does apologize, but I don't like the way she apologized, because she goes, oh, like, I'm sorry if that was a rude thing to say. It's like, girl, what do you mean if? She just told you it was a rude thing to say. So where's the if coming from? You know what I mean? Like, and all this over, like, you know, a man you've never met, embarrassing for you. And so Jasmine decides to hop in here and say, yeah, well, you know, what do you mean if? You knew what you said, because, and then she reiterates what Demi said, which was, you said my mouth is going to get me in trouble. So like, come on now, like, if you're going to apologize for real. So I'm so happy that that trio stuck together in holding Kat accountable for her comments. Like, maybe she's been able to get away with these like catty, disgusting comments that like overhype herself for like so long. But the buck stops here with the Love is Blind UK crew. And I was so proud of them for that. Listen, although Demi said no to Olly at the altar, like, she and he have maintained a really good relationship. And I feel like that's such like a good testament to like, you know, who they both are, you know what I mean? So I'm really, really proud of them. Sorry guys, I got like bit by a mosquito here and it is killing me. Now, the host then decides to get a little bit messy and to ask Olly if he's been in contact with Charlotte. We all saw how attracted he was to Charlotte when it was time for the mixer, and like, she just stepped out there with Tash, and he was like, whoa, that girl is hot AF, which, listen, it's true. She's absolutely beautiful. Like, in this photo, she looks like Padma Lakshmi, who is also beautiful, but in like motion at the reunion, she looked like Karuchi Tran, who was also beautiful too, like just beautiful through and through. And he was playing very coy. He couldn't answer the question properly, and they did the same. They asked her the same question, same thing. And I'm like, listen, guys, you were both in your 30s, okay? And you went on a show called Love is Blind, which is about trying to find someone to marry, okay? So, like, I assume that you guys were over the game playing and stuff like that in your lives. And it's been a year since the show was filmed, a year since Demi and Olly broke up. So what are you guys playing coy for, unless you're just over here wasting each other's time? You know what I mean? Like, I felt like that was kind of lame. I wish that they had just owned it if they were indeed currently seeing each other. But hey, we only have so much time to cram in all these questions, so we just had to move on. Now, let's get back to our bangless Sabrina, okay? I'm still getting used to seeing my girl without her bangs. She's beautiful without them, but I just loved them so much. Let me look at them one more time for the road. So she came across really, really hostile. There were two people that you could tell were fuming. And, well, actually three. So they were Sabrina, Maria, and Olly as well. So in the case of Sabrina, she is ready to let loose on what went wrong in her short-lived marriage to Steven. According to her, Steven completely changed up like 2 days after the wedding. Like, before, when they were in the pods and when they were like filming the show, like, she told him that she was planning to leave her job to launch her own agency. An agency of what? Not sure, but she said her own agency. And Steven claimed that he would be supportive of that, which I'm wondering what that means. Is that financially, like emotionally? I'm not sure. She doesn't clarify, but she claims that he never actually was supportive. And then they also agreed to be spending time between their two cities, Belfast, Ireland for Sabrina, and London, England, where Tom lives. Like, they were supposed to both be making the trek every so often. And unfortunately, he didn't even keep up with that either. In the span of their 4-month marriage, Sabrina went to London to visit that man 7 times. And guess how many times Steven went to Ireland to be with her? Only twice. Like, that's crazy. And she just, you know, was honing in on his inconsistent behavior and stuff like that. And then she was really pissed off about the fact that this man never put any real effort into making her feel accommodated, welcomed, or like thought of in the 2 times that she went to London. So she's saying, whenever Steven came to visit me in Belfast, Ireland, I bought like coffee and tea machines, right? Because I knew he liked them. I don't care for these things, but he liked them. So I did that to make him feel welcome. He needed an ironing board, I went and bought that. I bought $70 worth of groceries for this man, you know, like all sorts of things, you know. And so at this point, I'm like, girl, is he broke? Because why is this man having you pay for all of these things? You know what I mean? Like, that's very odd to me that the man is not like, hey, let's go grocery shopping together. I'll get the groceries. Or, hey, I need this ironing board, so I'm going to get the ironing board. Or, hey, I love tea and coffee, so I'm going to like gift you this for whenever I come. You know what I mean? Or something like that. Like, I just felt like the fact that this man was not paying for absolutely anything was a glaring red flag. You know, like, wasn't he supposed to be some kind of a gym owner? I thought he was doing well with that business. But then Steven starts talking about how he lost all of his gym clients. And I was like, how do you lose every single one of your gym clients? Like, I get you losing a couple, you know, because you left to do the show and maybe some things, I don't know, like changed. But like, you don't own this gym alone. You own this gym with like partners. So, and I would assume that your partners were like keeping things afloat while you were gone. So what really happened here? Like, it was very odd. And now Sabrina's complaints are starting to make more sense about how she was like, you know, doing all these things for this guy, supporting him even through his brokenness. And he still was not appreciating it, or even doing the little things, the little, like, you know, things that someone broke can do to have her feeling welcome in London. She said the man didn't even have time for her when she went to visit him in London. Like, very weird stuff going on there, you know? And I really, really wish that she got to explain further, but the hosts cut her off, like, when they were getting to the good stuff, you know? Steven tried claiming that she was lying and stuff, but honestly, I believe Sabrina, to be honest with you. She also talked about how he never wanted to like text or be on the phone or anything like that. And his excuse was like, he only likes to be on the phone if it's something important. I'm like, absolutely not. You know, like, when you're in a relationship, especially when you're in a marriage, like, you should be like communicating as much as possible, especially if it's long distance, to like make it work and keep it afloat. So the fact that this guy wanted minimal contact with her was very, very, very weird. And then like, he starts deflecting from all of this stuff, all of the stuff that Sabrina is like exposing him for. And he's like, Sabrina, I don't even recognize who you are anymore, which is so like gag, eye roll inducing, right? And Sabrina quips back so quickly. She goes, oh yeah, because you haven't seen me in 8 months. Gag it. Gag it. You know, like, that is so crazy that this man's only excuse for not communicating with his wife throughout their 4-month marriage, not going to see her in London, was to not even make an excuse, but to deflect and say he doesn't even recognize her. Like, that was some really, really manipulative stuff going on. Now, they were supposed to celebrate Christmas together as a married couple in Ireland with her family, but Steven canceled last minute. And when Sabrina said, what's going on? I'm like, dude, my family went to great lengths for this. Like, you know, we're spending all this time, money, energy, effort to like welcome you here in Ireland for Christmas. Like, what do you mean you're canceling 2 days before? And according to her, Steven said they'll get over it. Oh, wow. And so he acknowledges that this is indeed true. And his excuse is that it's because he mismanaged his finances. But it's like, did you suddenly mismanage your finances just 2 days before Christmas? Or were you mismanaging them the entire time and you did not communicate with your wife? And now last minute, you are like, you know, letting her down in front of her entire family. Like, this is really weird and really, really crazy. Like, I don't know, like, it's just all so odd. This guy, like, I feel like there's more that meets the eye with this, or we're just scratching the surface of his issues. Like, I feel like, yeah, there are financial issues at play, but there might be other issues at play as well that are like, just like very like odd. You know, maybe there's another woman in the picture. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if a lady suddenly came out and said that, hey, this is what was going on this whole entire time, you know, like, could this be a Trevor 2.0? I hope not, but I'm not holding my breath, y'all. Now, you know, like I said, at the end of this dispute, when Steven was trying to like, you know, share a little bit more about his like side of things, the host decided to cut them off. And then we moved on to Bobby and Jasmine, which I was so happy to see together. Like, they just looked so loved up, so happy, so warm, so close after their first year of marriage. We find out that Bobby immediately moved to London. Like, at first they were like debating it. And he's like, no, listen, like, I cannot live without my wifey. Let me go to London. And honestly, I'm just so glad Jasmine did not listen to her bitter ass mom. Like, that mom was just projecting all of her problems onto her daughter. And it was just not cool at all. And Bobby just seems like the sweetest angel. Like he's just always so happy to be around Jasmine. He looks like even just breathing her air is like so exciting to him, you know, and I just love that for him and I love that for her. And I am really looking forward to everything that they have planned in the future. Now, speaking of Jasmine's mother, she finally came around, you know, she was in the audience and she gives Bobby her 110% support for that marriage. And Bobby says that they're working on having kids. And I was like, damn, like already y'all just met, you know, it's only been a year, but okay, listen, when you know, right? And that was really off tune, but it was a TikTok sound. So listen, good luck to them in their journey there. And that segment didn't last too long before we headed over to Maria and Tom. And you could cut the tension between them with a knife, especially on Maria's end. She was fuming and Tom was trying to appear more like calm and cool and collected, but he also kind of looked like someone who was scared of her too, you know, like he was like, hey, we just got breaking news. I just got this on my watch. The jury has found Tom Girardi guilty of the 4 counts of felony wire fraud. Right to jail. Anyway, Tom was cowering in the corner like a puppy that just shit the bed. So I laughed so hard when they did a highlight reel of their like engagement and like their first look and how like they made out so hard. She got her lipstick all over him and he looked so funny smiling with that on. You know, it's always so sad to see how you can go from like so much love to just like this hatred or like, you know, just very angry energy, you know, very, very sad. Now, Maria shades Tom for his maternity leave comments. Remember, she said she wanted to be at home with her kids for at least the first couple of years when she has them, which is perfectly normal and actually, you know, recommended and, you know, I believe best for mom and baby. But he didn't want that. In fact, he wanted to be the one to stay at home. Like he delivered and was pregnant, but I digress, and his breastfeeding. And so she says that Tom insulted her mom by saying those kinds of comments, you know, and so then she also decides to get a dig in at Tom. She's like, yeah, like, you know, you're acting like it's a terrible thing for a woman to be at home with her kids. But guess what? My mom stayed at home with her kids and she raised nice kids. She raised gentle kids. She raised kids that don't judge people for their job title. Oh, that was obviously in reference to the time where Tom, unprovoked, disgustingly looked at his fiance, who was a makeup artist, and told her that he looked down on her for her line of work and thought she would be like a shallow, whatever kind of girl, you know? And I'm glad she clocked him for that because that was really like mean-spirited and it came out of nowhere and it just was yucky. Tom does admit to exhibiting ugly behavior and says that he has reflected and changed. Guys, let me just take a moment to remind you that Tom is a public relations specialist, meaning that his job is to handle these sorts of situations where a client looks bad and they have to craft an apology and do damage control. So whether or not Tom has actually genuinely changed and genuinely reflected remains to be seen. But of course, as a PR professional, he knows that he needs to say that to diffuse the situation and to rehab his image. Am I saying he's lying? No. I am just saying that his job is to do damage control. So do with that information what you want, okay? Now, Maria moved on to the next issue that she had with Tom. And it was that Tom said he wanted to raise, you know, after he said no to her at the altar. And remember, they had these issues about like finances. He wanted her to pay towards his mortgage when her name is not going to be on the title or the deed. And she said, no, that would be crazy for me to do that. I feel like she would have been okay with paying so long as he put her name on these things, which, you know, to me makes sense. There was also like the ice cream thing. Like the man didn't even, like his first date with his fiance, he didn't even buy a $2 ice cream. And then like to shade her over it when he was being a total like, you know, ick about that. He was like, I want to raise women who are independent, who don't need a man to pay for their ice cream, you know, like just stuff like that. And Maria's like, oh, well, wow, you are saying that like I'm not an independent woman, like my sisters that you met are not independent women, like wow, you know, like, and again, he apologizes. Tom's strategy this entire reunion was just to say, you're right, I apologize, I was wrong, that was terrible of me. Like, because how do you argue with that? You know what I mean? Like it diffuses the situation immediately and allows for us to move on to the next subject and not really analyze why he was doing and saying the things that he was doing, why he was being so sneaky, you know, why he was being so judgmental. and why he was just, you know, taking constant digs at her and kind of indirectly at her family as well and at her culture as well, right? Now, next we get to see how his relationship with Tasha played out, or Natasha. So that was the other girl that he was interested in the pods. And then we saw her at like that big mixer where everybody got to see everybody after the bachelor parties and whatnot. And the producers made it look like she told him that she loved him and that she was about to pursue him. And they made it look like he wanted to pursue her. And I do believe he wanted to pursue her because at that moment he knew he was going to say no to Maria at the altar. However, we also get to see a never before seen clip. And in that clip at that same mixer, we find out that a very special, important piece of the puzzle was missing. And that was Tasha telling him that she doesn't spin the block, meaning he said no to her and it's over. She never goes back to exes. You know, smart girl, a girl with high self-esteem. You love to see it. And, you know, I was just so disappointed that the editing made it look like, you know, she was trying to get with him and she shot her shot at him. And then like Maria tells Tasha that she loves her and she knows that like that's what the situation was and like she didn't fall for the editing tricks and whatnot. And I'm really happy that the girls are on good terms and that Tasha stayed true to her own words as well. Like, you know, you only have one chance and if you pass up on this, get out of here, have fun, you know. Now let's get into the next couple. At this point, the next couple that we're about to examine to see how they're doing 1 year post-marriage is Benaya and Nicole. They seem so happy, happier than ever, more in love than ever. And he starts off by saying he wants to take a moment to recognize how beautiful his laugh is. And, you know, most importantly, how beautiful her eyes are, you know, obviously in reference to Sam saying that she had boring brown eyes. And I thought that was quite the giggle. The audience didn't laugh, or like the rest of the cast didn't laugh as much as they should have. I would have been like keeled over for dramatic effect in front of Sam. Listen, I'm really happy whenever I see this couple. I think that they are a really, really good match. It's nice to see them like traveling together and completing all of these like beautiful adventures together. And then we get to see another never before seen clip, and it's of the two of them, their reactions after they had their first date together. You've got Sam who gets up and he's like, whoa, like I felt something there. And he's just going on and on about like how he knows his connection is special and how great of a time he had speaking with Nicole. And meanwhile, Nicole is having the exact same reaction. She's like, wow, like that was incredible. And so like you could tell they knew that they had something special between the two of them. And something kind of funny that stuck out to me is like after like Benaya leaves the room and like, you know how all the men are lined up in the hallway and they're like switching between the doors. The person he speaks to at the end about how amazing his connection was none other than Sam, who would go on to get engaged to Ben's future wife and everything. It's like, it's so crazy how life plays out sometimes, right? Now at the end, now at the end of that clip, we get back to like the couples and Ben describes like that like connection, and the hosts are like, okay, well, if you felt that connection, then why didn't you tell Nicole when she was asking you if you were ready to propose that you were ready to propose? You know, you were playing it so cool and stuff. And Ben says that that's something that like, you know, disappoints him that he behaved that way, but that he did it because he kind of like felt like the relationship or the connection was so strong that it scared him even. And so he was scared to like fully own that connection, which I totally understand. And then Nicole wants to take her own responsibility for not asking in a way that assured Ben that she wanted to be with him. So it's nice that they both recognize the parts that they played in their initial breakup. Right now, speaking of Sam from London, it's time for him to hit that stage. He claims that he had genuine intentions heading into the show, but honestly, like nobody else sees it but him. I don't believe it. The cast members don't believe it. Like the audience doesn't believe it. So I think he's just trying to convince himself. The man is a salesman through and through, but his actions and his aura, like, you know, contradict his claims. Now, Sam admits that he wasn't in love with Nicole when he proposed to her, but he says that like it's perfectly normal. And it's like, this is what people mean when they say you're inauthentic. If you went on a show to get married and you were being authentic, you would not be engaged to be married if you were not in love with the person, okay? You only did this because you wanted to convince yourself so that you could stay on this show. When Ben proposed to Nicole, it was because he was fully, truly in love with her. When Bobby proposed to Jasmine, it was because he was truly, fully in love with her. Same thing for Maria and Tom. Same thing for Sabrina and Steven. And it was even the same thing for Olly and DEMI, okay? I think the only difference is that they broke up, but like it doesn't mean that they weren't in love at that point. And I also believe that it's the same thing for Freddie and Kat. Like he was in love when he proposed. Everyone except the guy who's trying to convince us that he's authentic was in love when they proposed, you know? Come on now, right? Now, Nicole clarifies how pissed Sam was when she said so that she didn't want to go on that honeymoon trip with him. Like after Benaya warned him against Sam's inauthenticity, Nicole was like, okay, well, I trust Ben a lot, so I'm not going to go do this stuff on the show. So it sounded like she would have been open to like continuing the engagement off camera, but Sam really, really, really insisted on being on camera, and he flipped his lid. And that is when she called off the engagement. So I was really happy to see that become clarified, because I truly was wondering. And then like Sam gets to rambling about, you know, just a bunch of nothing. It's just a bunch of words coming out of his mouth to deflect from that. He never denies it. He just like, you know, circumvents that discussion. And at this point, my girl DEMI says, Sam, why don't you apologize for the times that you went on the show and you randomly, you know, kept telling Ben and just other people that like Nicole was trying to sleep with you. That was disrespectful. That was disgusting, and you shouldn't have done it. And then Sam just, again, blah, 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 bunch of flowery language and doesn't apologize. And DEMI says, Sam, just tell Nicole you're sorry. And I really, really loved her, you know, in this reunion. It seems like she found her voice, and I'm so happy for her. Now, Nicole at this point then tells Sam, yeah, Sam, you should have apologized, because that was a lie. You know, it never happened. And guess what? Sam from London doesn't even deny that he was lying. And it's like, oh, so you truly did lie on that girl and her coochie. You are a loser. You were so desperate. Like, you know, and I'm so glad he got exposed in front of everybody. Now, Benaya and Nicole then talk about their own future plans, right? I think they're the only other still married couple. So Bobby and Jasmine are working on the babies as we speak. Benaya and Nicole are working on travel as we speak. In fact, they plan to visit Ghana by the end of the year, which I think is awesome. I want to visit Ghana too. I'm jealous, girl. Then we get to see Freddie and Kat's relationship, which is the last one that we get to watch play out. And they seem to be in a really good place, actually, despite not working out as a married couple. So I'm really happy to see that. And Freddie explains that Catherine snapping at him all the time killed their relationship on his end, which doesn't surprise me at all. Who would want to marry that? Like someone who just like henpicks that. Is it henpicks or henpeck? Henpecks them all the time. You know, I'm totally supportive of him in that move. And then the host asked him about the wedding gifts. Like, you know, if you knew you were not going to marry her, why did you give her that gift? Well, Freddie claims he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because the husband typically gives the wife a wedding gift. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, then I'm assuming that, you know, all the other husbands did the same thing, but it wasn't featured, right? To specifically call this out and make him look like the bad guy. Because remember, as we've learned throughout our years of expertly watching reality television, producers manipulate a lot, right, in order to push certain narratives. And we saw that with the Tom, Maria, and Tasha thing, right? Like they made it seem as though Tasha wanted to get with Tom and said that she loved him, and that was not the case. So I do believe Freddie, even though I was initially upset with him about that. And so his sister comes around. I'm sorry, you guys. I know a lot of you guys like her, but she gives me like weird vibes. She has very dark energy to me. I don't know what it is about her, but I feel like she has elle a un regard qui est très froid. She has a very like ice cold demeanor and look to her. Like she always looks like that to me, you know? I don't know. She just gives me very, very cold vibes. You know, I guess she's very protective of him because Freddie seems like, you know, someone who needs a lot of protection and seems like, you know, very fragile and soft. So maybe that's what it is. And I'm misjudging her, but I don't know. She gives me cold vibes. So anyway, she says that she stands by the advice that she gave Freddie against marrying Kat, and like, you know, that being with Kat made Freddie more like recluse and stuff like that, you know, a shell of his former self. And that's why she said not to do it. And listen, I guess that, you know, I think that's good advice, right? When you see your brother in that kind of like a state, you know, to step in and to say that. But again, it's just a vibe thing. I'm not saying she gave him bad advice. It's just her vibe that like is off to me or just doesn't mesh with mine. Now, again, I'm glad that Freddie and Kat are on good terms, and it seems like the sister is also on good terms with Kat, so that's good. And again, you know, just like I said, his sister gives off cold vibes, odd vibes. I think Freddie gives off sad vibes. Like, I don't know, something about those two siblings. Like, they just both seem very like sad. Like something is off about them. Freddie, even when he smiles, he just looks sad. Like the smile never reaches the eyes. The eyes never twinkle and sparkle. He never seems, yeah, he'll crack jokes, but you know, he doesn't seem genuinely happy. It's hard to explain, but that's how I feel about him. Anyway, you guys, that does it. A recap of Love is Blind UK Season 1. Now, at the top of this recap, I asked you to rate the reunion episode specifically on a scale from 1 to 10. If you haven't before, now would be a good time to do that. I rated it a 6, 7 if I'm feeling generous. Now, I want you guys to rate the entire season of Love is Blind from 1 to 10. I personally would give it a solid 8, 9 if I'm feeling generous. I thought it was a really good introduction into the UK market, and I am looking forward to season 2 of the show. They did just announce that season 2 is going to be airing next year. So let's all meet back here. If you haven't already, do make sure to subscribe to my channel so you'll never miss out on a single Love is Blind UK or US recap. And by the way, if you enjoy Love is Blind Brazil, let me know and I'll start recapping that as well because I definitely do enjoy that. That's all for now. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure, and I'll see you in my other videos. Bye, guys.